Welcome to our program, General Trinquand.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
US President Donald Trump said that he could provide Ukraine with air support in case of a peace deal to help a European peacekeeping mission on the ground in Ukraine. What is your assessment of the current US efforts to provide Ukraine with security guarantees? Because European allies are working on this matter around the clock right now.
Yes, thank you. And that's a very good question. In fact, European countries are working together with the coalition of the willing, led by France and by UK, to provide security forces in Ukraine. But they want to be linked with the US, and the US, as you know, has decided not to put troops on the ground. So air support will be very useful. But even within the European country, it is difficult to find country able, because they've got the means, but willing also to go on the ground. I think that France is in a good position for that, with UK and probably other countries. We know that Italy will not provide something, that Poland will provide support from Poland, not in Ukraine. So we are still wondering what is the composition exact of the forces ready to provide security forces for Ukraine.
From your perspective, why has President Trump proposed this idea right now, just during the negotiations with the Russian side? And does this make any sense? Because Vladimir Putin still rejects any ceasefire offers and peace deal offers.
I think for the last month, we've seen many changes with the Trump administration. The first change was after 7 months to go from the Putin Kremlin language to the Ukrainian European language. That was the consequence of the firm support given by European to Mr. Zelensky after this terrible interview in the Oval Office in Washington. Then Mr. Trump was ready to meet with Mr. Putin in Alaska. After the meeting in the Alaska, Trump was going back to the Kremlin language. But because he asked Mr. Zelensky to come into Washington, and immediately all European leaders came with Mr. Zelensky in support of Mr. Zelensky. And I think that changed a bit the mind of Mr. Trump, who realized that he was really not really discussing with Mr. Putin. Mr. Putin was just putting on his table what he wants. And so I know, because of the difficulty of discussing with Mr. Putin, I think that Mr. Trump is slowly moving and come back to the Ukrainian and European point of view. That doesn't mean that there will not be discussion. Mr. Zelensky have already said that he wants to discuss with Mr. Putin. But my feeling is that Mr. Putin will not accept that. Because if he accepts to discuss with Mr. Zelensky, that means that he will be in a bad position. So we'll see in the next weeks.
From your perspective, what has influenced Trump's thinking on Ukraine? Also, according to Financial Times, European allies were convincing Trump that this idea of giving up the whole Donbass to Russia was a bad one, because Ukraine, if it is the case, Ukraine could lose strategic defense lines in the Donbass if it gives up Donbass to Russia. What is your assessment of this?
I think this goes back to the proposal of the ceasefire. The interest of Ukraine is to propose a ceasefire. That's also the interest of the European. Then if there is a ceasefire, the lines of contact will be stopped where they are currently. That means that, in fact, de facto, Ukraine will not recognize the annexion of Donbass by Russia. But that means also that the Ukrainian will maintain their strong position in defense around Potrovsk and on the Donbass. So I think that currently, really, the Ukrainian and European will want to go back to this ceasefire, which means that the bloodshed will stop there. And there will be discussion for a very long time, probably, because I think that Mr. Putin is in such good position that he can continue the war. You know that in the next year, he will have difficulty in recruiting, in paying, but also in the economical terms. So that's why he wants to stop the war now, but we'll have to change the cards in his hand to put the cards in the hand of European and Ukrainian.
Does it mean that Vladimir Putin has recognized that he should stop this war, but right now he wants to stop this war only on his terms?
Yes, because he wants to show that he is very strong and that we are weak. You know, President of the Council, Clemenceau, during the First World War, was saying that the one who will win is the one who is in the last quarter will think that he is not defeated. And we are exactly in this position. Ukraine need to understand that they are not defeated by Russia. They've been fighting for more than 3 years with Russia. And that now, if there is a discussion, this discussion must be on equal terms.
And what is your assessment of this promise by US President Donald Trump, because he is just giving Vladimir Putin another 2 weeks for a while?
Yes, you're right. I think that the pressure put by Mr. Trump was stopped during the Alaska meeting. You remember that at that time he was pressuring on economical term, proposing to impose tax on the secondary tax, meaning the Indian and China. Of course, India is of major importance because of the import of oil. So he must go back after this failure in Alaska. Mr. Trump must go back to this economical pressure. But one thing is interesting on the Russian side is the position of Mr. Lavrov, which was apparently really absent from the previous negotiation. And now he's on the front line. That probably shows that the Russians understand that they will not gain on the ground, but want to gain on diplomatic terms. That's why Mr. Lavrov is speaking a lot currently.
You just mentioned about the economic tariffs. The US President Donald Trump has imposed another 25% tariff on India, on Indian goods. Do you see this as another reason why Vladimir Putin decided to move forward with diplomacy and try to take Trump on his side, try to end this war, but on Russian terms?
Yes, I think that Mr. Putin currently understands that people are not really interested in the war in Ukraine. Even India, China are not interested. So that's why he's deploying his diplomacy on another front, showing that India, China, all these countries, the BRICS mainly, should focus on opposing to US. So not really looking at the Ukrainian war, but looking at the pressure put on the US. And that's why he's deploying this diplomacy to have these people with him against the US, which will counter the position of the US in Ukraine.
You just also mentioned about China. However, according to the recent news publication, China would not like to see Russia losing this war. The statement was made by Chinese foreign minister during his meeting with European colleagues. What is your assessment of current position of China?
Of course, the interest of China is that US, must be more involved in the Ukrainian-Russian war. Why? Because then they will have more free hand in Taiwan. So that's probably why China is supporting so much Russia. First, because they want to have US involved in Europe and not so much in Pacific. Secondly, because as I said with the BRICS, because China is part of the opposition to the US. And so that's why they are allied with Russia, not so much because they are interested in Russia, but because they are interested in the opposition to US.
Let's also cover a new weapon deal between NATO and the United States, European allies. European countries have been buying American weaponry, have begun to buy these weapons from the US, paying US money for weapons delivered to Ukraine. What is your assessment of this new plan, and is France also willing to participate in this?
Yes, I think that really NATO is not very useful for the support of Ukraine. The US are very important. The Europeans are very important. But as you know, Ukraine will not join NATO. Not only because the Russians don't want them, because the US don't want that. So in fact, what is the Secretary General of NATO trying to show that he's an important person. In fact, he's not important at all. He's just subordinate to the US. But what will be done is that the US will probably sell weapons to Ukraine through NATO country. And I'm saying NATO country. I'm not saying NATO. We have to make the difference.
And what is your assessment of this plan? And do you feel that this will work in long-term perspective, even after any kind of peace deal is settled, or even in case of talks are failed and don't have any kind of results?
Well, I think that currently we need to focus on the ceasefire, on stopping the bloodshed. Then, Mr. Putin is 72 years old. Mr. Xi Jinping is the same age. And currently the party is trying to organize the succession of Mr. Xi. If there is a ceasefire, then in Russia, people will look at what will be the future. Will be the future with Mr. Putin or with someone else? And we then can change the cards within the world. Mr. Trump is 70 years old. He will not be the president in 3 years' time. We'll see if it will be Mr. Vance or someone else. Mr. Vance will be very dangerous, of course. In Europe also, there will be changes. So the first step is stop the bloodshed in Ukraine and then look at the future with new cards in China, in Russia, in US, and even probably in Europe.
Let's also cover Ukrainian strike deep inside Russia. According to the Wall Street Journal, Pentagon has been restricting Ukrainian ability to strike Russia with US-made weapons since the last spring. This was the decision of Elbridge Colby, and this authority was given to Pete Hegseth to decide whether Ukraine can strike Russia or not. What is your take on this another restricting policy of Ukraine?
That's where we need to be careful, Ukraine and the European, about the help provided by US, because this help is just concentrating on the interest of US and not the interest of European or Ukraine. So that's why we need to have more independence, weapon system, intelligence, and all that. I understand that Ukraine have passed agreement with European country to provide more intelligence. And so that's very useful. But also the European must be more autonomous about that. And I think in the next years to come, European will build a more autonomous defense structure in order to be linked with the US, but also be able to be autonomous from the US.
Also, Ukraine has begun a mass production of long-range cruise missile Flamingo with a range of more than 3,000 kilometers. And this new warhead is twice bigger than the warhead of Tomahawk cruise missile, according to Associated Press. What is your reaction to this? And do you feel that Ukraine is using this development as another card during negotiations with the Russian side?
I think it's not only for negotiation. It's a strategic point of view. Ukraine is not able to regain the ground on the soil of Ukraine because of the lack of soldiers, mainly. But striking in the back of Russia on logistics, on industry, is the way Ukraine wants to diminish the power of Russia for the next years. And that's why I'm saying that stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine will allow then Russia to look in the future and say, perhaps we don't have the real tool to disband all units in Ukraine, and we need to negotiate for the future.
And also Ukraine says that now it produces one such cruise missile per day, and there are even plans to also widen this production, increase number in production of this missile. So do you feel that this could be used as a deterrence in the future to deter Russia from attacking Ukraine again?
Certainly, it's a tool for more autonomous Ukraine. Ukraine defending its soul and having the tools to defend its soul and to confront with Russia. I think it's very important.
Thank you, General Trinquand, for your time and for your support for Ukraine, and glory to Ukraine.
Glory to Ukraine. Thank you very much.